Quick, don't turn around. Damn, I was sure that would work. Wanted to see if I could make this quick. You humans are usually so easy to trick with a little reverse psychology. At least you used to be. Now you're all glued to your damn screens, and so desensitized by all the disturbing imagery out there. Case in point, you've been sitting reading tons of creepy stories and your heartbeat hasn't increased at all. Oh, well, it hadn't, until just now. That got your attention, didn't it? Your heart is beating quite a bit faster now. It's such a powerful yet oddly delicate muscle. It keeps you alive and runs blood throughout your entire body, but can also be stopped rather easily through an outside force. I would know. I've done it so many times before. I can see your body beginning to tense up as you shift uncomfortably where you sit, a telltale sign of fear taking hold of your senses. Sure, you're telling yourself subconsciously you were just getting sore in that spot after a long session of reading, but I know that deep down you know this is not true. How do I know this? Because I'm standing right behind you. Do you feel a sense of dread creeping in? That undeniable feeling that you are being watched? Can you feel my breath on the back of your neck? No? Keep telling yourself that, my friend. After all, this is just a silly, scary story you're reading on a forum. This isn't real. Oh, my friend, you have no idea how wrong you are. The other night, as you may recall, when you were getting together a late-night snack in the kitchen, you suddenly stopped and looked all around, but you didn't see anything. You just shook it off, didn't you? Chuckled to yourself about your mind playing tricks on you. Well, I regret to inform you that your initial feeling that you were no longer alone was right. I was there, and I was indeed watching you. Your breath is quickening now. I can hear it oh so clearly. Even if I wasn't right behind you, I'd be able to hear it from across the room. I can see your back rising with every breath as you try to loosen the tightness in your chest. You're truly frightened now because you've slowly realized that this is not just another story. This is real. Don't bother trying to get up. I won't let you. I wouldn't waste time calling for help. This little game of ours will be long over before anyone can come to your aid. Do not turn around. Not yet. I'm having far too much fun for this to end prematurely. Nothing you can say or do at this moment will change what is about to happen to you. You can't hope to fight me off or escape. I promise it would just be a waste of strength. There's only one way this ends, and I don't think I need to spell it out. I can see in your eyes through the reflection of the screen that you only have one other question before our time together comes to a close. Why? Why is this happening? Why have I chosen you? And why now? Normally I don't give answers to my prey. However, there's something special about you. So before we go, I'll enlighten you on how this came to pass. You see, I've always been there, just behind you, ducking out of sight anytime you look in a mirror, when you take a picture of yourself, or when you turn around. I've been with you for a very long time. Your body has tried to alert you of my presence countless times, giving you waves of unease at seemingly random times, gooseflesh rising on your arms without a knowing cause, and those random times you've woken up in the middle of the night. These were all warning signs, which you've wholeheartedly ignored. The truth is, I watch countless people in some way, shape, or form looking for my perfect target. I hunt because I must. It is my only calling in this life. Well, of your life, my existence is a little harder to explain, for I've always been there. What made you such great prey is that you are so damn headstrong. Most people have the warning signs and get scared. They second-guess everything around them. This makes the hunt less fun for me. I don't feed off of fear. I find nourishment off of ignorance. That is what made you the perfect target for all these years. Even when your body was screaming at you, telling you something was wrong, you laughed it off and told yourself everything was fine, when it wasn't. If you had just admitted to yourself that you were scared, that maybe, just maybe, something truly was wrong, I might have left you alone. Then again, maybe not. I find it hard to let go of someone I've been tethered to for so many years. But now it's time that I finally move on, which is why you and I are having this conversation, or more accurately, why you are reading this as I rest my hand on your shoulder. Don't flinch. It's far too late for that. All that's left to do now is accept your fate with the same gusto you've had all these years. You see, I've always been there, just behind you, ducking out of sight anytime you look in a mirror, when you take a picture of yourself, or when you turn around. I've been with you for a very long time. Your body has tried to alert you of my presence countless times, giving you waves of unease at seemingly random times, gooseflesh rising on your arms without a knowing cause, and those random times you've woken up in the middle of the night. These were all warning signs, which you've wholeheartedly ignored. The truth is, I watch countless people in some way, shape, or form looking for my perfect target. I hunt because I must. It is my only calling in this life. Well, of your life, my existence is a little harder to explain, for I've always been there. What made you such great prey is that you are so damn headstrong. Most people have the warning signs and get scared. They second-guess everything around them. This makes the hunt less fun for me. I don't feed off of fear. I find nourishment off of ignorance. That is what made you the perfect target for all these years. Even when your body was screaming at you, telling you something was wrong, you laughed it off and told yourself everything was fine, when it wasn't. If you had just admitted to yourself that you were scared, that maybe, just maybe, something truly was wrong, I might have left you alone. Then again, maybe not. I find it hard to let go of someone I've been tethered to for so many years. But now it's time that I finally move on, which is why you and I are having this conversation. Or more accurately, why you are reading this as I rest my hand on your shoulder. Don't flinch. It's far too late for that. All that's left to do now is accept your fate with the same gusto you've had all these years. You can see me in the reflection on your screen, can't you? At least some of me. There's a lot to take in after all. In my full form, I take up half of the room. There's no need for tears, my friend. The time for that is long over. Shake off your fear, take a deep breath, turn around, and look into my eyes. Just don't be too alarmed at how many of them I have. Your friend, the one behind you. Story 2. Never look out the window at night. I was awoken by the sound of rain pattering against my window. My eyes slowly stretched open, darkness consuming my vision as I stared up at the pitch-black ceiling. A flash brightened my room for a second, revealing every inch hidden behind the blanket of black. I rolled my head around, eyes darting to the window beside my bed. I could only see the sky, dark like my room apart from the occasional flash. It took me a minute to wake up and realize what I was doing. When I did, I quickly tossed my head to the other side of my pillow. I was now facing the wall. Panic slowly started to rise in my chest. My heart thumped loudly, even louder than the thunder. I squinted my eyes shut, my breathing heavy and strained. I had looked out the window. Now you might be wondering why this is such a bad thing. Ever since I was small, I was told by almost everyone not to look out the window at night. Whenever I would ask why, I would receive a dull response. "Something bad will happen," was the usual answer. I wasn't the only person raised with this rule. Every kid in my class was told the same thing, and all of us were equally as confused by it. I figured it was some stupid ploy my town had thought up to keep kids from staying up late. That was until last year when Brody Heathens looked out the window one night. Brody thought the story was nothing but horseshit, and he was determined to prove so. He told the entire school that he would look out his window that night and tell us what happened the next morning. We were all excited, thinking that Brody was as brave as can be, going against our communal rule. I was excited to be at school the morning. I couldn't wait for Brody to arrive and report on what had happened. He was late that day. He came into class looking tired, pale and sickly. At lunch, we all rushed to ask him what happened. He didn't say anything, only looked down at the pitiful ham sandwich in his hands. No matter how many times we asked, or how loud we asked, he wouldn't answer. A few people were worried, but most brushed this off, thinking that he was playing a joke. I didn't think he was joking. He looked genuinely affected. He was quiet that whole day, which was more than shocking, as Brody had always been a loudmouth who struggled to keep it down during lessons. I don't think he spoke a word that whole day. He didn't come to school the day after, or the day after that, or any day for the entire week. By now, everyone was concerned. On the second week of Brody not coming to school, we were all called into the assembly hall. There, the school confirmed that Brody had committed suicide and that there would be a ceremony for him in the gym during lunch. The school was silent that day. Only the muffled sobs of Brody's morning friends filled the halls. We all knew that whatever he saw out the window that night must have driven him to do this. People's curiosity refused to let them leave the topic alone. Suzanne Walters was next. She looked out her window one night and hung herself less than a week later. Then it was Jack Richmond. He looked out his window too, and had shot himself in the head with his dad's rifle 3 days later. 3 deaths in 1 month. Everyone was terrified. and we all knew that something was causing them to do this. Something was torturing every person that looked out their window at night. I vowed that I would never do it, but now I had. I lay silent in my bed. The sound of rain grows steadily louder. I waited for something to happen, but nothing did. After a few minutes of sweating and laying still as a statue, I rolled my head back out, peering back out to the sky. I started to calm down. It wasn't so scary, dark, but not scary. A confident feeling rose in me. I'm not sure why or how this feeling began, but it was impossible to ignore. I lifted myself up from my mattress, my sheets sticking to my sweat-stained back. I poked my head over the side and looked out the window. There was nothing there. A few dim streetlights flicked in the darkness, and a flash of lightning would illuminate the street, revealing nothing but puddles of rain and blacked-out houses resting peacefully beside the sidewalk. Stupid, I chuckled to myself, turning my head to flop back down into my comforter. But something caught my eye just as I moved my head. Something was sitting in the corner of my room. I felt my heart freeze and stop. It was still pitch black in my room, so I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked like a person. They sat on the floor, knees pulled up to their chest, hands clutching their legs as their head was bowed low, face hidden behind their thighs. I couldn't look away from the figure, convinced if I did, it would jump up and rush me. I couldn't move, terrified that if I did, the figure would notice me. Slowly, the figure began to raise its head, bright orange eyes peering at me through the thick darkness. A cracking sound followed in pursuit. The figure rose to its feet. Once it was fully stood up, it was up to my ceiling. I didn't know what to do at that moment. I slowly inched my head towards my pillow, gently resting it against the fabric. I rolled over, slow as a snail, so I was facing my wall. The whole time, the figure stayed still, just watching me with its beady orange eyes. I shut my eyes as tight as I possibly could. I couldn't stop the waterfall of tears from dripping down my face, although I did my best to be as quiet as possible, apart from the occasionally loud sniffle. I'm not sure how, but eventually, I fell asleep. I woke up the next day. The sun beamed into my room, and the figure was gone. I jumped out of my bed and ran downstairs. My parents were sitting in the dining room, and behind them stood the figure. I could see it fully now. Its skin was a dry, muted gray, and it had two little slits in its face for nostrils. Wispy tufts of hair crept out from its scaly scalp. It had a long, skinny body. I could see its ribs poking out of its stomach. It had short, stubby, almost dinosaur-like arms, with nails as long and as sharp as knives protruding from its fingers. Its orange eyes glared at me, while it smiled, big and commercially white teeth poking out from its gray, chapped lips. "Mom," I muttered, baffled at how my parents couldn't see the figure looming behind them. "Yes, sweetie," she answered in a chipper and unbothered tone. "What's up, bud?" asked my dad. The figure cracked its neck down so its head was looking down at my father, eyes rolled up to the edges of its eyelids, gazing at me. "You're looking a bit pale," my dad said, worried. I wondered if I should tell them. It was obvious they couldn't see it. I choked down my fear and spoke with a hoarse voice. "I'm fine, just tried," I said. I sat down at the table. The thing looked at me the entire time I ate. I followed me to school, diving behind cars and trees every time I tried to look at it. I sat down in class. The thing was standing at the back of the class watching me. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. Its eyes felt like they were stabbing me. My friend Dave sat down next to me during lunch. "Dude, are you okay? You've been quiet today," he said. I looked up at him. The creature was standing behind him, waving its knife-like fingers around in a strange pattern. Was this the thing that Brody had seen? The thing that drove him to kill himself? I knew it would try and do the same to me. I wouldn't let it. I looked out my window last night. Dave went pale. "There's a creature following me now. Nobody can see it but me. I think it drives you to take your own life. I'm not sure why, but it won't do that to me." I looked up at the creature. It was now snarling at me. I reached its hand up and clapped it down on Dave's head. I watched Dave freeze, and his eyes slowly rolled to the back of his head, blood pouring from them along with his ears and mouth. I jumped to my feet, a nauseous pit rising in my stomach. Dave fell to the ground, staining the grass with cherry red blood. "Dave!" I shouted. "What?" His voice came from behind me. I turned. Dave was standing there alive, but he was also lying on the floor, dead. I felt dizzy. I couldn't keep my head straight. My head throbbed as I tumbled to the floor and blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a dark room. There was nothing in the room but a bed. The creature was lying on top of me, face inches away from mine. I wanted to scream, but nothing would leave my mouth. Slowly the creatures bent down, drool spilling onto my face and into my mouth, choking me. He opened his jaw wide, his jagged white teeth ready to rip me to shreds. Alex! I opened my eyes. I was lying in a hospital bed, bandages wrapped around my temple and an IV pumping fluids into my body. My mother was sitting beside me, clutching my wrist. "You're awake. You're finally awake," she cried. What my dad said next made my blood run cold. "Why would you drink that rat poison? What were you trying to do? Kill yourself?" I looked up at the small window on my hospital room door. The creature stood there, grinning as its glowing orange eyes pierced right through me.